The years 56 to 54 BC marked a critical turning point in Caesar's Gallic campaign. Following his successful establishment of Roman authority in Gaul during the initial confrontations, Caesar faced the dual challenge of consolidating control and extending his influence into the more distant and fiercely independent regions of the Gallic world. These years witnessed a significant escalation in the scale and complexity of military operations, the deepening of political entanglements with local tribes, and the expansion of the conflict beyond the borders of Gaul itself. Caesar's ambition, combined with the strategic imperatives of Rome, drove him to undertake campaigns that would test the endurance and discipline of his legions, as well as his own capacity for command and statecraft. In 56 BC, Caesar faced a resurgence of resistance in the northwest of Gaul, particularly among the Veneti, a powerful seafaring tribe based in the region corresponding to modern-day Brittany. The Veneti had a unique strategic advantage. Their control of maritime trade routes and their formidable fleet of ships allowed them to dominate the coastal regions. Caesar, recognizing the threat they posed to Roman authority and communications, launched a concerted campaign to subdue them. The conflict with the Veneti required a significant adaptation in Roman tactics. Unlike the traditional land battles that the legions excelled in, this campaign necessitated a naval component. Caesar ordered the construction of a fleet and, with the aid of his lieutenant Decimus Brutus, engaged the Veneti in a series of naval battles. Despite the Veneti's superior knowledge of local waters and their robust ships designed to withstand the tides and winds of the Atlantic, the Romans eventually triumphed. The capture and execution of the Veneti leaders served as a brutal demonstration of Roman power and a warning to other tribes contemplating rebellion. Concurrently, Caesar dealt with unrest among the Venelli, Curiasolidi, and Lexovii in the same region. These tribes, emboldened by the initial resistance of the Veneti, formed a coalition under the leadership of Viridovix. Caesar dispatched his trusted legate Quintus Titurius Sabinus to confront this threat. Sabinus employed cunning rather than brute force, exploiting internal divisions within the Gallic ranks and launching a surprise attack that decimated the enemy force. This campaign underscored the effectiveness of Roman intelligence and the strategic use of deception in warfare. Meanwhile, in the central and eastern regions of Gaul, Caesar sought to neutralize the threat posed by the Eburones and other Belgic tribes who had not yet fully submitted to Roman rule. The suppression of these groups involved a series of rapid and punitive expeditions, aimed at demonstrating the reach and relentlessness of Roman authority. Caesar's forces moved swiftly, often employing scorched earth tactics to deprive the enemy of resources. Villages were burned, fields destroyed, and hostages taken. The message was clear: defiance would be met with overwhelming force. The year 55 BC marked a bold expansion of Caesar's military ambitions. Seeking to deter Germanic incursions into Gaul and to elevate his prestige in Rome, Caesar undertook two unprecedented military operations: the crossing of the Rhine and the first Roman invasion of Britain. The former was a response to the migration of Germanic tribes such as the Usipetes and Tencteri, who had crossed the Rhine and settled on the Gallic side. Caesar viewed their presence as a destabilizing factor and a potential rallying point for Gallic resistance. To address this, he constructed a massive bridge across the Rhine in just 10 days, an engineering marvel intended as much for psychological impact as for practical use. Caesar led his legions into Germanic territory, where he conducted a brief but destructive campaign before withdrawing and destroying the bridge. This act demonstrated Roman technological superiority and Caesar's capacity to project power across natural barriers. Later that same year, Caesar launched an expedition to Britain, a land known to the Romans through trade and rumor but never before visited by a Roman army. The operation was fraught with logistical challenges. The British coast, with its high cliffs and treacherous tides, posed significant obstacles to landing. Furthermore, Caesar lacked detailed intelligence about the terrain and the political landscape. Nevertheless, he managed to land a force and engage local tribes in battle. Although the expedition did not result in permanent conquest, it served its purpose: to intimidate the Britons, discourage their support for Gallic rebels, and enhance Caesar's reputation in Rome as a daring and innovative commander. In 54 BC, Caesar returned to Britain with a larger force and a more deliberate strategy. This time, he achieved more substantial results, establishing client relationships with several local rulers and extracting hostages. However, logistical difficulties and the onset of winter compelled him to withdraw once again. Despite the lack of a permanent presence, the British expeditions were a significant propaganda victory for Caesar, bolstering his political position in Rome and reinforcing the narrative of Roman invincibility. Back in Gaul, the consequences of Caesar's ambitious campaigns began to manifest. The widespread disruptions caused by military operations, the heavy demands for tribute and hostages, and the often brutal treatment of defeated tribes fostered deep resentment among the Gallic population. While many tribes remained subdued, a simmering sense of unrest persisted beneath the surface. Caesar's divide-and-conquer strategy, which relied on exploiting rivalries among tribes, was effective in the short term but sowed the seeds of future resistance. Moreover, Caesar's prolonged absences from the heartland of Gaul created opportunities for dissident factions to organize. In the winter of 54 BC, this vulnerability was starkly revealed when the Eburones, under their leaders Ambiorix and Catavalcus, launched a surprise attack on a Roman legion wintering in their territory. The massacre of the Roman force commanded by Quintus Titurius Sabinus and Lucius Aurunculius Cotta was a devastating blow. It highlighted the perils of overextension and the limits of Roman control in hostile territory. Caesar responded with characteristic decisiveness, launching punitive campaigns and reinforcing his winter quarters, but the incident underscored the fragility of Roman dominance in Gaul. The period from 56 to 54 BC thus represented a phase of aggressive expansion, marked by military innovation, bold strategic initiatives, and growing tensions. Caesar's actions extended the geographic scope of the conflict and temporarily enhanced Roman authority, but they also deepened local animosities and set the stage for the widespread rebellion that would erupt in the years to come. The subjugation of the Gallic tribes during this time was not merely a series of military victories, it was a complex process involving diplomacy, intimidation, and the ruthless application of force. Caesar's ability to navigate this environment showcased his strengths as a commander, yet the seeds of future resistance were already sown by the very methods that had secured his temporary success.